My dog, Biscuit, has the kind of face that makes strangers stop and coo, but apparently, Karen from the HOA sees a snarling beast in his droopy eyes. Last Tuesday, I found a legal notice taped to my door, accusing Biscuit of aggressive behavior and demanding a restraining order. It was so absurd I laughed until I realized she was dead serious. I'd only been in Willow Creek for 3 months, a quiet suburban pocket where kids ride bikes and neighbors wave over picket fences. I'm Jake, a 32-year-old graphic designer who moved here for a fresh start after a rough divorce. Biscuit, my golden retriever, came with me a 90-pound bundle of loyalty who'd sooner lick you to death than growl. The neighborhood felt like a dream, except for Karen, the HOA president who patrolled the streets like a hawk. She'd nitpick everything too tall grass, unapproved mailbox colors, even kids' chalk drawings. But targeting Biscuit, that was a new low. It started innocently enough. Biscuit loved our evening walks, his tail wagging like a metronome as we looped around the cul-de-sac. Karen lived 3 houses down, her lawn pristine, her house a beige monument to HOA compliance. One evening, Biscuit paused to sniff her mailbox, and Karen stormed out, yelling, "Keep that mud off my property." I apologized, tugging Biscuit away, but her glare followed us like a laser. I chalked it up to her being, well, Karen. But then the complaints started piling up. Notes in my mailbox. Your dog barks too loud. Control your animal. Biscuit barely barks, and when he does, it's a soft woof at squirrels. I ignored her, figuring she'd move on to her next victim. She didn't. 2 weeks later, I got the legal notice. Karen had filed a formal complaint with the HOA, claiming Biscuit lunged at her during our walk and posed a threat to the community. She'd even rallied a few neighbors to sign a petition for a restraining order to keep Biscuit 500 feet from her property, effectively banning him from half the neighborhood. I was floored. Biscuit, aggressive. The dog who once hid behind me during a thunderstorm. I called an emergency HOA meeting to clear this up, thinking reason would prevail. Spoiler, it didn't. The meeting was in the community center, a stuffy room packed with folding chairs and nosy neighbors. Karen stood at the front, clutching her clipboard like a shield, her voice dripping with self-righteous fury. "This dog is a menace," she declared, holding up a blurry photo of Biscuit mid-yawn, his mouth open in what she called a snarl. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others rolling their eyes. I stood up, Biscuit's leash in hand, and tried to explain. He's a golden retriever. For Pete's sake, he's trained, vaccinated, and wouldn't hurt a fly. But Karen wasn't having it. She played her trump card, a video from her doorbell camera. The footage was grainy, but it showed Biscuit and me walking past her house. He stopped, sniffed her mailbox, and gasped, lifted his leg for a quick pee. Karen zoomed in on the clip, narrating like it was a crime documentary. "See, he's marking territory, asserting dominance." The room erupted in whispers. I tried to laugh it off. "He's a dog. Karen, that's what dogs do." But her allies, mostly older folks who worshipped her rulebook, were eating it up. Then came the twist. Mrs. Delaney, the sweet 80-year-old from across the street, stood up. "I saw what happened," she said, her voice shaky but firm. "Karen kicked at Biscuit that day. He didn't lunge, she provoked him." The room went silent. Karen's face turned beet red. "That's a lie," she snapped. But Mrs. Delaney held her ground, describing how Karen had shouted and swung her foot, startling Biscuit into a quick step forward. I was stunned. Sweet Mrs. Delaney, who baked cookies for everyone, was my unexpected ally. The tide seemed to turn. Some neighbors looked skeptical of Karen now, but she doubled down, demanding the restraining order and a vote to ban dangerous pets. The next week was a circus. Karen escalated her campaign, plastering signs around the neighborhood, "Protect our safety, ban the beast." She'd nailed one to the community board by the cul-de-sac, the red letters screaming like a tabloid headline. Neighbors started picking sides. Some, like my buddy Tom, thought it was ridiculous and brought biscuit treats to show support. Others, swayed by Karen's fear-mongering, gave me dirty looks. One guy even suggested I muzzle Biscuit just to be safe. I was losing my mind. This wasn't just about a dog anymore. It was about Karen's need to control everything. The climax came on a sunny Saturday, right in the cul-de-sac. The HOA had scheduled a final vote, and tensions were sky high. I brought Biscuit, thinking his wagging tail might remind everyone he was harmless. Big mistake. Karen was there, clipboard in hand, rallying her crew. The community board, now covered in her signs, stood like a monument to her crusade. As I argued my case, Karen pointed at Biscuit, screaming, "That dog is a danger." Her voice was so loud it startled Biscuit, who yanked his leash in excitement, accidentally knocking over her precious mailbox. Letters and flyers spilled onto the grass, and the crowd gasped like it was a crime scene. Karen lost it. "See, he's out of control," she shrieked, storming toward us. In her fury, she tripped over the fallen mailbox, landing hard on the grass. The crowd froze. Biscuit, oblivious, trotted over and licked her face. For a moment, I thought she'd have a heart attack. Then, from the back, a new voice cut through Officer Daniels, a local cop who'd shown up after someone called about the commotion. "Ma'am, calm down," he said, helping Karen up. "I've seen this dog around. He's no threat. You, on the other hand, might want to explain these." He held up one of Karen's signs, pointing out it was defaced with a slur against me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen stammered, claiming it wasn't her, but the handwriting matched her other signs. The fallout was swift. The HOA vote swung in my favor, with Mrs. Delaney's testimony and Officer Daniels' intervention sealing the deal. Karen's restraining order was thrown out, and her credibility tanked. Turns out, her petition had forged signatures. Neighbors she'd bullied into signing later admitted they'd never seen Biscuit act aggressively. The HOA board forced her to step down as president, and her signs were torn down. The community board restored to its boring notices about yard sales. Biscuit, meanwhile, became a local celebrity, with kids begging to pet him and Tom joking he deserved a medal for surviving Karen. But the real kicker, a week later, Karen's own cat, Mr. Whiskers, got loose and shredded her neighbor's garden. The same neighbor she'd rallied against me filed a complaint, and Karen had to pay for the damages. Talk about karma. I saw her packing up her car a month later, muttering about moving to a better neighborhood. Good riddance. Biscuit and I still walk the cul-de-sac every evening, his tail wagging like nothing ever happened. But I'll never forget how one woman's vendetta almost tore us apart, and how a community, and one brave old lady, stood up for what's right. So, what do you think ever dealt with a Karen who took things too far? Share your story, I'd love to hear it.